When was the last time you said no and meant it? Not apologetically, not with a list of reasons to justify it, and not followed by an immediate offer to make it up to someone. Just a simple no thank you and meant it. Now, for most of my life, I couldn't have answered that question because the answer for me was never no. Welcome back to the Wonders Within podcast. I'm Nikki Denham, founder of Wellness Wonders Australia. And today we are talking about boundaries, but not in the way that you might expect. Not scripts for difficult conversations, not how to hold firm when someone pushes back. We're going to go deeper than that. We're talking about why saying no is a healing act, and why people pleasing is not a personality trait, and why the most radical boundary I ever set wasn't even with another person at all. Now, for a long time, you would not have described me as someone without boundaries. You would have described me as someone who had a very full life. My calendar was always packed with dinners and festivals, winery trips, concerts, friends' sleepovers and nights out. One thing after another after another. Now, my people had to book in weeks and sometimes months in advance just to make sure that I could schedule them in. And I wore that fullness like a badge of honor, like proof that I was living, that I was loved and that I was wanted. But what I didn't understand then, and what I couldn't see from the inside, was that fullness wasn't joy, it was armor. Every plan I made was another guarantee that there'd be no quiet, no stillness, and no moment where something underneath the surface might pop up and ask me to actually look at it. I wasn't building a life, I was building a schedule so full that I never had to be alone with myself. Now that is people pleasing in its most invisible form. Not the version where you can't say no to others, but the version where you can't say no to the distraction itself, where staying busy feels like thriving because the alternative feels like drowning. But then I started healing my nervous system and everything changed. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly. Now the invitations kept coming and something in me started responding differently. A winery trip, no thank you. A festival, no thank you. A dinner with a group of people that I would have moved mountains for 6 months ago. No, thank you. Now, the no wasn't because I didn't love them, and it wasn't because I didn't want that connection, but because for the first time I was choosing something else instead. I was choosing to sit in the quiet, to be alone in my own home with no noise, no wine, no scrolling, and no distraction. To feel whatever was underneath the surface, to show up for myself in the way that I'd always been showing up for everyone and everything else for years. And I won't pretend because it was not easy at first. Sitting in that stillness felt confronting in ways I hadn't expected. The feelings that surfaced, the grief, the ache, the old wounds, they were exactly what I'd been running from, and they were exactly what needed to be felt. But here is what I discovered on the other side of that no. Surprisingly, the world didn't end. What a shocker. The friends that were real, they stuck around. Those friendships survived. The people who loved me, they completely understood. And the version of me that emerged from those quiet evenings at home was more present, more grounded, and more genuinely available to the people that I loved. Now, that was the no that changed everything. Not a confrontation, not a difficult conversation, just a woman sitting quietly at home, choosing herself for the first time. So let me share what I now understand about people pleasing, because I think we have it wrong. We talk about it like it's a personality type, like some people are just naturally givers, naturally accommodating, and naturally inclined to put everyone else first. But people pleasing is not a personality, it is a survival response. Somewhere early in life, the body learned that keeping other people happy kept you safe, that saying yes prevented conflict, that making yourself useful, available, agreeable was the way to stay loved, to stay protected, and to avoid the thing we were most afraid of. And the nervous system stored that learning, filed it away as a truth, and kept it running long after the original threat had passed. So every time an invitation comes up and your body wants to say no, but you say yes anyway, that is not kindness. That is your nervous system doing what it was built to do, keep you safe in the only way that it knew how. And every yes that isn't a true yes costs you something. It costs you energy. It costs you presence. It costs you peace, and it costs you the quiet moments where the real you, the one underneath all the performing and the pleasing and the showing up, actually gets to breathe. So here's what I'd like to give you today. 2 things. Simple and practical and available to you from this moment forward. Now, the first one is the pause. Before you respond to anything, and I mean anything, an invitation, a request, a question, a text message, just pause, just for one breath, for one single breath. You come back to your body, you feel what is there, not what you think you should feel, not what would be easiest to feel, but what is actually there, because your body knows before your mind does. There is a sensation that happens when something is a true yes, an opening, an ease, a sense of, yes, this is right. And there is a different sensation when something is a no. You have a tightening, a heaviness, and a subtle contraction somewhere in your chest or your gut that your mind immediately rushes to override. That contraction is not anxiety. It is not you being difficult, and it is not antisocial. It is information. And the pause, that one breath before you respond, it creates the space to actually receive it. Now, I do this everywhere now, before I answer a question, before I respond to a message, before I even walk into a room. Just one breath, just a moment of coming back to myself before I engage with what is in front of me. And it has changed the way that I move through the world. And it will change the way that you move through yours too. Now, the second thing is the no itself. So when the pause tells you something is a no, you say it kindly, clearly, and without a list of reasons attached. No, thank you. That's it. That's the whole sentence. Now, if I'm being honest, when I first started practicing this, I did offer a slight reason, a softener, something to make the no feel more acceptable, more justified, and more palatable to the other person. And slowly I realized the reasoning that I was giving wasn't actually for them. It was for me. It was for the part of me that still believed a no needed to be earned, that I owed someone an explanation for choosing myself. Now I don't, and neither do you. No, thank you is a full sentence. It is kind, it is complete, and it requires nothing more from you. The discomfort that follows and the urge to walk back in, to soften it further and to check that the other person is okay, that is your nervous system doing its old job, trying to keep the peace the only way that it used to know how. Now, you don't have to act on it. You just have to breathe through it. And trust that a no spoken with kindness and clarity is one of the most loving things you can offer to yourself and to the people around you who deserve a version of you that is present and whole, not just available. Now, here is what I'd love for you to sit with this week. So go grab your journal and find a quiet moment and ask yourself, where in my life am I saying yes when my body is saying no? Now, not the obvious ones, but the quiet ones, the invitations you accept before you've even thought about it, the commitments you make because it's easier than the alternative, the plans you agree to and immediately feel heavier for. Write them down without judgment, just honesty. And then ask yourself the harder question. What am I avoiding by staying busy? What is the quiet trying to show me that I keep scheduling over? Because the fullness of a calendar can look a lot like a life well lived. And sometimes it is. And sometimes it is just a very sophisticated way of not being alone with yourself. Now, when I sat with this myself, the answer was uncomfortable and completely clear. I was avoiding everything. The grief, the pain, the version of me that needed tending to. I had built a life so full that there was no room left for her. And she was the one I most needed to meet. Now, you don't have to clear your whole calendar. You don't have to say no to everything. Just find one yes this week that isn't true and say no instead. And then sit in what comes up. That is where the healing is. Now, if this episode landed somewhere real for you, if part of you recognized yourself in the full calendar, the automatic yes, or the busyness that kept the quiet at arm's length, I want you to know that you're not alone. This is the work I'm passionate about sharing. Learning to listen to your body, learning to honor what it's trying to tell you, and learning to choose yourself, not as a concept, but as a daily practice. Through nervous system regulation, boundaries, somatic healing, inner child work, and gentle self-reflection, I'm here to help women come home to themselves. And if you'd like more conversations like this, practical tools and simple practices you can bring into your everyday life, come and find me on my socials. We're on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And that's where I share a lot of my work, and I'd love to connect with you there, so come say hi. I've popped the link down in the show notes for you. Now, thank you again for being here today. I want to leave you with this. The no that changed my life wasn't dramatic. It didn't involve a difficult conversation, a confrontation, or a moment of standing my ground against someone else. It was quieter than that. It was a Friday night, an invitation I would have once said yes to without thinking, and a choice for the first time to stay home instead, to sit in the silence and feel what was there. That was the most powerful boundary I ever set. Not because of what I said no to, but because of what I said yes to instead. Yourself, your healing, and your quiet, that is always worth it. Until next time, bye for now.